But he said to wait till till 10, so we'll start right at 10. No, he said. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Inshallah, we'll start our program for the night of the 19th, Shab-e Zarbat-e Imam Ali, and also the first night of the Laylatul Qadr. I would like to apologize for the delay due to technical difficulties. Inshallah, I'm requesting Dr. Akbar Rizvi to please recite a few verses of Holy Quran. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salawat.
محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يغشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى فذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
Salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Requesting Brother Mohsin to recite his salam. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salawat.
نکلا ہے جنازہ کوئی اللہ کے گھر سے افلاک میں ایک شور ہے ماتم کے اثر سے نکلا ہے جنازہ کوئی اللہ کے گھر سے افسوس کے مسجد میں نمازی گیا مارا افسوس کے مسجد میں نمازی گیا مارا کچھ کم نہیں یہ محشر قیامت کے اثر سے نکلا ہے جنازہ کوئی اللہ کے گھر سے زینب سے یہ کہہ دو کہ وہ دل کھول کے روئے زینب سے یہ کہہ دو کہ وہ دل کھول کے روئے شبیر کی ہمشیر ہے رونے کو نہ تئی سے نکلا ہے جنازہ کوئی اللہ کے گھر سے عباس ذرا زینب مضطر سے خبردار عباس ذرا زینب مضطر سے خبردار فریاد میں ہٹ جائے نا چادر کہیں سر سے نکلا ہے جنازہ کوئی اللہ کے گھر سے
اللهم صل على محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, please recite a loud salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. For the hastening and the return of our beloved 12th Imam, another loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad ajil faraja. Inshallah, everyone is doing well, and hopefully these nights of Ramadan have been going well for you. Tonight, inshallah, we'll be discussing a topic that ties in very closely with the life of Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi and his seerah and what he had to deal with essentially. And that is the topic of the characteristics of the enemies of Imam Ali. What is it that constituted the enemies of Imam Ali and what made them who they were? What are some of the characteristics that they had? Because if we understand what these characteristics of the enemies of Imam Ali were, then when it comes to ourselves as people who would consider themselves friends of Imam Ali, people who consider themselves followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, then as long as we can stay away from these characteristics, we would be able to, inshallah, follow his path a lot better. The enemies of Imam Ali, of course, when you look into history, what you find is that there is a major change between the time of the Prophet compared to the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib. During the time of the Prophet, the number one enemy of the Prophet, of course, were the kuffar, the mushrikeen, the disbelievers, people who didn't believe in the religion altogether. And as time went on and as the Muslim empire grew even more and more, what you found is that then the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, the enemies of Imam Ali salawatullahi alayhi in particular, they went from being the disbelievers, the kuffar, the mushrikeen of Quraysh and Persia and Rome, and then the new challenge was the challenge of the munafiqeen within the Muslim empire. This is a huge change and a huge shift that you find between the time of the Prophet and between the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib. When the Prophet was around, his issue mainly was the disbelievers, the people who did not even want Islam to be established. But when it came to the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib, then you find that the challenge now changes. And the challenge is more a challenge of individuals who will show that they believe in Islam. They will put up a false front that they actually believe in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them to do. But at the same time, deep down, they don't believe in it. So this is a change in the challenge from the Prophet, what the Prophet had to deal with, compared to what Ali ibn Abi Talib had to deal with. This is why in the verses of the Quran there is so much emphasis and there is so much talk about the munafiqeen. If you start going through the verses of the Quran, you will realize that in fact there is as much talk of the disbelievers, there's as much talk of people who don't want Islam to even exist as there is of the munafiqeen. Meaning that the mushrikeen and the kuffar is one discussion for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. At the same time, the munafiqeen are just as much of an important discussion for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we have this surah of munafiqeen that we recite sometimes on these days of Jum'ah. We recite it in Salatul Jum'ah, for example. It's mustahab to be recited in Salatul Jum'ah. And that's just one surah. Any other part of the Quran that you look at, there are always verses of the Quran that they are talking about the munafiqeen and people who showed that they believed in Islam, but they didn't truly believe in Islam. The challenge of Amirul Mu'mineen, therefore, was more of this type than it was compared to what the Prophet was dealing with. Why is it that the Quran spends so much time talking about the munafiqeen and explaining what the munafiqeen does? Obviously, it's because their threat is going to be a different type of threat. It's going to be the type of threat where you don't see it coming necessarily. It's hidden, just like this pandemic that we're dealing with right now. There are people who might have the virus, God forbid, and they have no idea themselves. They might be asymptomatic. It might be a situation where the person might be sick and he has no idea that he's carrying this virus around. This is why this is a pandemic. This is why the threat is such a dangerous threat. If it was a type of sickness where you could tell very easily based on someone having some, symptoms or not, it would be a little bit easier to trace things because you would just look at who's sick. But when it's hidden, it makes it even more difficult. This is why Islam has spent quite a bit of time discussing this topic and this idea of nifaq, because that's the issue with nifaq. It's going to be hidden and you won't be able to really tell it from disbelief. You won't really be able to tell it from belief either, because it's going to be hidden. That's why the Quran spends so much time on this topic of nifaq. Okay. Having said that, when you look in the verses of the Quran, it's interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet even, because when we talk about ourselves, we may not be able to tell a munafiq from a mu'min. We may not be able to tell someone who can really see someone for who they is. But when it comes to the Prophet, you would assume that the Prophet would be able to tell all of this kind of stuff, because we know that our Prophet was extremely smart. We know that our Prophet would be able to read individuals. So you would assume that at least the Prophet would be able to tell who is serious in their faith and who is not serious in their faith. But the verses of the Quran imply for us that there were times and there were incidents where even the Prophet salawatullahi alayhi, he was not able to tell who is carrying true faith and who is not carrying this true faith. And I say this because we have this in the verses of the Quran. These are from Surah Munafiqun, verse number 4. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذا رأيتهم تعجبك أجسامهم. Ya Rasulullah, when you see these munafiqeen, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they dress, it will impress you. You will be very much drawn to them, in fact. وَإِن يَقُولُوا تَسْمَعْ لِقَوْلِهِمْ. And if they start speaking, you will listen to them. This is addressing who? This is addressing the Prophet. It's not addressing us. Forget about us. It's addressing who? The Prophet. The Quran is saying even when these munafiqeen speak, even the Prophet, because he is going based on the normal knowledge, not the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to give him, not the ladunni knowledge, the special knowledge. Based on worldly knowledge, he wouldn't be able to tell. This person is munafiq, this person is not munafiq. Now based on their action, it's a separate thing. Maybe based on their actions he could tell. But just based on looking at them, it would not be possible for him. وَإِن يَقُولُوا تَسْمَعْ لِقَوْلِهِمْ. And then again in Surah At-Tawbah, verse 101, the Quran says, وَمِنْ حَوْلَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ مُنَافِقُونَ. Amongst you guys, around you guys, there are munafiqun. وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ. And from the people of Medina, مَرَدُوا عَلَى النِّفَاقِ. They're not normal munafiq. These guys, marada means when you go into something, you essentially delve into something. That's what marada means. These guys have delved into nifaq. They are, hardcore munafiq, so to speak. Maradu ala nifaq. But then look at what the Quran says. La ta'lamuhum. But you don't know who these individuals are. Nahnu na'lamuhum. We know who they are. سَنُعَذِّبُهُمْ مَرَّتَيْنِ ثُمَّ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَذَابٍ عَظِيمٍ. They will be punished twice because of what they're doing, and therefore and onwards with the verse. Therefore the Quran is telling the Prophet even, you won't be able to tell when these guys are able, when they speak to you, they speak in such a beautiful manner that even you won't be able to tell. And then in other verses of the Quran it also says this, وَإِذَا جَاءُوكَ. When they come to you, حَيَّوْكَ بِمَا لَمْ يُحَيِّكَ بِهِ اللَّهِ. They greet you in a way that God himself has not greeted you in that manner. Isn't that interesting? It's interesting. The verse says these guys are so good with how they use their tongue. They're so good with how to speak to people that when they come to you, Ya Rasulullah, they will greet you in a manner that God himself did not greet you in that manner. Like they will speak with so much praise, they will throw so much praise your way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has not sent this much praise your way. This means that they're very good at what they do. When they open their mouth, وَإِن يَقُولُوا تَسْمَعْ لِقَوْلِهِمْ. You're willing to listen because that's how beautifully they speak. Okay, so this all just highlights the danger of this issue of nifaq. Okay, having said this, let's understand what this nifaq means, and then we're going to have a very quick observation to understand how this relates to our day-to-day life. Because a discussion that we have on nifaq, on trying to figure out who was munafiq 1400 years ago, is not going to be very beneficial for us. We're trying to figure out how we can take this and apply it to our lives today. And when we go through the discussion, you will see that you can apply this 100% to your life today. Because we'll have to open up what this concept of nifaq means and why the Quran speaks of the munafiqeen to us so much. Many people assume that the Quran speaks of the munafiqeen so that we can protect ourselves, so that we don't become like them, so that we essentially can protect ourselves from the plotting of the munafiqeen. That's part of it. But there's another reason why the Quran talks about munafiqeen, and when we understand that, then we'll see that this topic completely applies to our lives as well. Okay, this word nifaq, when they refer to someone as munafiq, what do they mean? Nifaq literally means to leave something, right? To go out of something. And the reason why they call a munafiq is because this person is an individual who entered into Islam and left Islam at the same time. He is not a person who came into Islam and stayed within Islam. He entered into Islam and he immediately left Islam. Nafaqa means when you essentially leave something. So that's why they call a munafiq. They use this terminology in Arabic for it. Okay, here's the point though that we're talking about here. The issue of nifaq, when we talk about nifaq, usually we think about the fiqhi tradition and the fiqhi definition of this word nifaq and munafiq. See, these words of iman, kufr, nifaq, they have fiqhi definitions. In the fiqhi definitions, they're black and white. So what does that mean? That means that if you want to be a mu'min from a fiqhi perspective, what does that mean? You have to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, salawatullahi salamu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You have to say certain phrases, for example. Once you say those phrases, you are Muslim. You have faith, so to speak. Is it black and white? Yes, it's black and white. The moment I open my mouth and I say those things, it's done. And the same thing with kufr as well, right? If I go against one of those fundamental beliefs within the religion of Islam, that's the fiqhi definition of what kufr is, and that's it. Black and white, we're done. What is nifaq? Nifaq has a black and white definition as well. I say I'm Muslim, but deep down I don't believe in these two statements that we just pronounced. Okay. But then there is an akhlaqi perspective and an akhlaqi definition of these same terms. And this akhlaqi definition of these same terms is very different from the fiqhi definition, because the fiqhi definition is black and white, whereas the akhlaqi definition has a spectrum to it. Meaning that you will find one person who is very munafiq. You will find one person who's moderate munafiq, as odd as that sounds. And then you will have someone who has a little bit of nifaq in him. See, based on the first definition, you can't say that. Either you're munafiq or you're not munafiq. Either you're mu'min or you're not mu'min. Either you're kafir or you're not kafir. But based on this akhlaqi definition, nifaq becomes a spectrum. And when it becomes a spectrum, you will have people who are completely munafiq, and then you will have people who have a little bit of nifaq inside of them. How does someone get a little bit of nifaq? The person who has a little bit of nifaq, and this is why I said this topic would apply to our lives today, is because the person who has a little bit of nifaq inside of him, essentially he is not munafiq from a fiqhi perspective, okay? But he has characteristics that are characteristics of the munafiqeen. He does things in the way that the munafiqeen do things. And therefore, we would say this person has a little bit of impurity in his soul. He has a little bit of nifaq in his soul. Same thing we have with kufr and with iman. One of the reasons why you find in our hadith, in the verses of the Quran, there are different definitions for a mu'min. Sometimes the Quran will say, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ are these people. Sometimes it will say, al-mu'minun are these people. Definitions are a little different because iman is a spectrum. It's not a black and white thing where either you believe or you don't believe. Yes, in that sense, we also have that in the verses of the Quran where you believe or you don't believe. But a lot of times it's referring to what? As a concept, as a spectrum. Therefore, sometimes the Quran will say, this is a mu'min. And then in other verses of the Quran, it will set a higher standard. Say, no, this is a mu'min. It's because it's referring to different spectrums of iman. Kufr is the same thing. We have a fiqhi definition for kufr. If I undermine one of these fundamental principles that we have in Islam, we would refer to this as kufr. But from a akhlaqi perspective, it is a spectrum. That's why the hadith says from the sixth Imam, salawatullahi alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, that the sixth Imam was asked an adnal ilhad. He was asked of the lowest level of disbelief. And he said what? Qala innal kibra adna. He said the lowest level of disbelief is what? It's arrogance. So that means that a person who is arrogant, although fiqhi perspective, he is not kafir. But from an akhlaqi perspective, he has kufr inside of him. Again, in the verses of the Quran, we read that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is Surah Yusuf, verse 106, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. And most of the people, they will not believe in God unless that they are mushrik. Which seems like a contradiction to us if you look at shirk and belief from a fiqhi perspective. But not so much so if you look at it from an akhlaqi perspective. The Quran is saying these people who are believers, they are all, most of them are what? They are mushrik, except for those who are ibadin al-mukhlasin, the pure servants of ours. And Surah Yusuf alayhi salam was one of those as we were going through the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay, so now that we understand it as a spectrum, I may not be munafiq, you may not be a munafiq, but that's not the discussion here. The discussion is, do you have characteristics that are munafiq-like? Do you have characteristics that make you look and walk and talk and behave like a munafiq? Then if you look at it in that way, then you will see that yes, there are characteristics that apply to me that are the same exact thing that a munafiq would do in this situation. Meaning if they took me out of a situation, they put a munafiq instead, how would a munafiq deal with this situation? How would he go about things in this situation? You would see a lot of times he would do the same thing, na'udhu billah, that we would do. And that means that we have a little bit of nifaq inside of us. Not that we're munafiq, but we have a little bit of nifaq inside of us. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil faraj. Now, because this was such an issue, you find that the Prophet also, as you know, Ali ibn Abi Talib was preparing to become Khalifa and he was preparing to become the Imam after the Prophet, you will find situations where Ali ibn Abi Talib also emphasizes this issue, the danger of nifaq here and there. There's a famous hadith from the fourth Imam, salawatullahi alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, that he says one day one of the sandals of the Prophet it had some issues and it needed to be fixed, right? And the Prophet, he took this, which they would call a na'l in Arabic, right? He took his na'l, and because it had some issues, it needed to be repaired. He gave it to Ali ibn Abi Talib to repair it. And Ali ibn Abi Talib was there, he was repairing it, and he was sitting further away from the Prophet. And then the Prophet came to the masjid, and he started to speak to the people. And amongst this khutbah that he was mentioning, he said this. He said, amongst you all, there will be a group of people who will fight they will fight for the ta'wil of the Qur'an the same way I fought for the tanzil of the Qur'an. Tanzil of the Qur'an meaning what? Just establishing that the Qur'an is there and that it's the word of God, right? He said there will be some of my companions who will come after me. They will fight for the ta'wil, for the correct interpretation of the Qur'an, the realities of the Qur'an. Kama qatalna, the same way we fought for the tanzil of the Qur'an, to establish the Qur'an itself. And then the hadith continues, because each of these companions, while they were sitting there, they of course wanted to know, am I that person who is going to be able to do this? And that's why in the hadith it says that close companions of the Prophet, and people who were very well known in the Muslim society later on, they raised their hand. They said, Ya Rasulullah, am I going to be that one who after you fights on the ta'wil, he tries to protect the ta'wil, the interpretation of the Qur'an, as much as you fought on the tanzil of the Qur'an? And the Prophet on multiple occasions, he said, no, it's not you, it's not you. And then, everyone went quiet because they wanted to know, well, who is this person? Then the hadith says that the Prophet pointed towards Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, وَلَكِنَّهُ خَاسِفٌ نَعْلٌ. He said, it's the one who's working on my sandals right now. He will be the one who will fight on the ta'wil. Who is going to mess around with the ta'wil of the Qur'an? Who's going to mess around with the interpretation of the Qur'an? A munafiq is going to mess around with the interpretation of the Qur'an. So this is the Prophet setting the grounds ready, setting the foundation ready, that once I leave, the challenge is going to go from being the issue of establishing the religion to then preserving this religion from the munafiqeen who are trying to create problems in the midst of this religion carrying on throughout time. Okay? Again, in the khutbah of the first Imam, you find this, how he puts a contrast between the time of the Prophet and the time of himself. He says, when we used to fight along the Prophet,
ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن ہے وقت سحر خون میں تر.
We're believers. And so it wasn't very difficult. He says this, فَلَقَدْ كُنَّا مَعَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَإِنَّ الْقَتْلَ لَيَدُورُ عَلَى الْآبَاءِ وَالْأَبْنَاءِ وَالْإِخْوَانِ وَالْقَرَبَاتِ. It says we were with the Prophet and we were fighting, but we were even fighting our close ones, our relatives, fathers, brothers, grandfathers. فَمَا نَزْدَادُ عَلَى كُلِّ مَصِيبَةٍ شِدَّةً إِلَّا إِيمَانًا. But anytime we ran into a difficult situation, it only added to our faith. It was only a matter of showing us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for us. Even though things were difficult, it would add to our faith. وَمُضِيًّا عَلَى الْحَقِّ وَتَسْلِيمًا لِلْأَمْرِ وَصَبْرًا عَلَى مَدَدِ الْجَرَاحِ وَلَكِنْ. And then he continues, he says, but later on things changed. وَلَكِنَّا إِنَّمَا أَسْبَحْنَا نُقَاتِلُ إِخْوَانَنَا فِي الْإِسْلَامِ. Then after the Prophet was gone, we had to fight people who would call themselves what? I am Muslim. They would call themselves, I am within the realm of Islam. Then all of a sudden, the challenge and the battle changed. And this made things very difficult. على ما دخل فيه من الزيغ والإعوجاج والشبهة والتأويل. Because these were individuals who were trying to change the ta'wil of the religion. So even Ali ibn Abi Talib is explaining how things have changed. So if we want to take this topic and apply it to our own lives, we have to understand that nifaq is not a switch that you turn on or off. It is rather a spectrum. Depending on how many of these characteristics of the munafiq that you and I would have, we would come closer to nifaq. And the least that we have, then we would be moving away from nifaq. Having said this, let's delve into the first of these. And tonight I'll just go through essentially 5 of these characteristics of a munafiq. How would a munafiq deal with the different situations? And these are all situations that we deal with as well. So every one of them that we mention, you can ask yourself this question, and I can ask myself this question of how would I deal with a situation like this. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajjal faraj. The first that you find in the characteristics of a munafiq is that this person, this is from the verses of the Quran, that whenever he stands to pray, whenever he is there to perform an act of worship, all of a sudden he gets lazy. All of a sudden he doesn't feel like he wants to really pray. Why is this? Because essentially, at deep down, he doesn't really have this belief. He doesn't really have this faith. Because of that, when he wants to stand for prayer, he feels lazy. What is he going to pray for? If you don't believe someone is there watching you, if you don't believe someone is listening to what you're saying, then you get lazy and you say, well, what am I praying for essentially? And it's difficult for you to carry on with the prayer. The first characteristic is that this individual, when he stands to pray, he is always lazy. And he never feels enthusiastic to pray. Doesn't mean if someone is like this, he is munafiq. That's not what it is. If someone is like this, he has a characteristic from the characteristics of a munafiq. This is munafiq-like behavior. So I have to keep emphasizing that so that that's a disclaimer. Not saying you become munafiq for any of these, right? It's just that this is a characteristic like that of the munafiqeen. The first is that whenever they stand to worship, وَلَا يَأْتُونَ الصَّلَاةِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ كُسَالَى. Every time they want to stand for prayer, they are kasil. They feel lazy. They feel like they are weak. They don't have this sense of wanting to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second one, and I'm bundling this up together, وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا وَهُمْ كَارِهُونَ. And they never give away from their wealth. They never do infaqa unless وَهُمْ كَارِهُونَ, unless they hate it. When they're giving away from their wealth, they feel like they are, they don't feel comfortable about it. Right? And in Islam, we have this idea that, of course, you're supposed to balance how much you give away. Right? You're not supposed to put yourself in difficulty, and you're not supposed to, as the verses of the Quran say, you are also not supposed to tie your hands to your neck, which is the metaphor that the Quran uses for those who don't give any of their wealth at all. So you have to find a balance between it. But these individuals, even if they want to give at a balanced level, what happens? وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا وَهُمْ كَارِهُونَ. Every time he wants to take money from his pocket and he wants to give it to others, he feels uncomfortable. He hates the idea that he has to give away. Now the munafiqeen, the actual munafiqeen, they felt very uncomfortable because for them, they didn't know what they were giving their money for. They were just giving their money so that other people would see them and say, oh, this person is a Muslim too. So it's extremely difficult for them to give away. So maybe for us, it may not be that difficult, right? But still, to the amount that your belief is there, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is getting that money, or the amount that you don't believe in that, that is how much more uncomfortable naturally you will feel every time it is that someone wants to do infaq of this wealth. For them, it was complete discomfort because they didn't believe any of it. For us, it might be lower levels of it. Again, nifaq being a spectrum here, right? Not a switch that you turn on or off. Why is it that they believe this? Why is it that it was so difficult for them to give from their wealth? Because the Quran says, وَمِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ, this is Surah At-Tawbah, وَمِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ, and from these people who are around you, مَن يَتَّخِذُ مَا يُنْفِقُ مَغْرَمًا. Some of these people around you, they are such that when they give away from their wealth, they see it as a maghram. They see it as a loss. They assume, and they're living their life with this mentality and this mindset, that if I give in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I lost that money. It's gone. That's why they feel so uncomfortable. That's why they feel so much discomfort. Because this guy feels like every single time I give away, it's going in the middle of nowhere. And I'm never going to see that money again. It's interesting. Beautiful hadith from the second Imam, salawatullahi alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says, when they asked him, the second Imam is well known for his generosity, for the fact that he gave away all of his wealth twice in his lifetime. They asked him, su'ila anil bukhl. They asked him about bukhl, about stinginess. So what is this stinginess? Can you define what stinginess is? This is what the Imam mentioned. He said, أَن يَرَى الرَّجُلُ مَا أَنْفَقَهُ تَلَفًا. Said, whenever a man sees and assumes that whatever he gave as nifaq, or forgive me, infaq, whatever he gives in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever he sees it as talafa, that he has lost that money. This is what stinginess is. And if you think about it, it's very beautiful what the second Imam is saying. Because if someone goes about their life in this way, they go about the way they look at the world in this way, that is exactly what leads to what? It leads to stinginess. If I look at the world and I say every time I give away from my money, it goes and there's no more getting it back, then obviously I'm going to be the stingiest of the stingy at that point. Okay, so this is their first characteristic. When they stand for prayer, they're weak and they're lazy. When they want to give from their wealth, all of a sudden, wahum karihun, they're not comfortable with it. They have a lot of discomforts. Okay, first characteristic. Second characteristic of the munafiqeen is this, is that when there is a situation where the Prophet needs someone to take care of something, even though they are able to take care of it, they will try to come up with excuses, back out, and allow others to take care of it. And this is something we deal with as well. Anytime you have a matter of community, anytime you have a matter, even in families, right? There will be a certain duty, there will be a certain task. There are those who are front runners who will say, I'll take care of it. And then there are those who will sort of sit back and they'll just wait for others to go ahead and take care of the work. Or maybe they'll come up with an excuse. And they'll say, it's just very difficult for me, so I can't help you out. This person, he has more wealth than the others. He has more wealth at his disposal. But when there's someone who needs help, what does he do? He sits back and says, listen, others can take care of it. He comes up with his own excuses. Where did this come up during the time of the Prophet? The munafiqeen, when the Prophet used to go out for a battle, he used to go out for a ghazwa, he wanted to go out to defend himself. The munafiqeen were the first who would come and they would start coming up with excuses. وَجَاءَ الْمُعَذِّرُونَ مِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ. The ones who bring their excuses came, the Quran says. He calls them the ones who make excuses. The munafiqeen, that whenever things became difficult, what did they do? They used to come up with excuses so that other people, let's send other people. Let them go ahead and take care of it. We will sit back. We will enjoy our life. And then, if something terrible happens, at least it happened to them. It didn't happen to us. And if they win and they're victorious, then all of a sudden we'll be with them. This was the mentality, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. This was their mentality. But essentially, they used to come up with excuses. And then the Quran continues. The Quran says, listen, if these people who come to you and they ask for excuses, to be excused and to be pardoned, if they are people who truly have a valid excuse, there's no problem. لَيْسَ عَلَى الضُّعَفَاءِ وَلَا عَلَى الْمَرْضَى. The people who are, they're weak, the people who are sick, the people who are blind, if they can't go and fight, that's no problem. مَا عَلَى الْمُحْسِنِينَ مِنْ سَبِيلٍ. We don't hold anything against them because they're really doing as much as they can. But these guys, رَضُوا بِأَنْ يَكُونُوا مَعَ الْخَوَالِفِ. These guys were able, and still they sat down with the women and children. They stayed with the women and the children. And this is the Quran blaming them. That these guys, the guy's an adult, full-fledged adult. He has all the abilities of an adult. But he wants to sit with the women and the children in the sense of those who they're not supposed to be in the battlefield. He wants to sit with them. The Quran says, okay, if these guys want to sit with them, that's fine. Let them sit with them. But the Quran is explaining how he is aware of who is making excuses and who is not. And when you look into history, the Prophet gave permission for a lot of them to stay, in fact. For a lot of these munafiqeen to not come to the battlefield. And there's a reason for that, and we'll cover that in just a couple of minutes, inshallah. He gave them permission to stay, in fact. But the Quran is saying, listen, even though you stay, we are aware of who goes as a frontliner and who's sitting back and he's just, making sure that his wealth is protected and his life is protected and just looking at how things happen to other people. When he knows that he has a duty to take care of this duty, he knows that he is supposed to be one of the frontliners. This is the second characteristic of the munafiqeen. Recite salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah. The third characteristic of the munafiqeen is this, that this person is the type of person that if you have him around and he is there with you in your group of friends, in your circle of friends, he will kill the morale of the group. He will start speaking of negative issues all the time, so much so that not having him around is better than having him around. And this is why the Prophet, when these individuals used to come to the Prophet and they used to come up with these excuses, some of them maybe the Prophet didn't know if they had a real excuse or not, and some of them he must have known that they don't have a real excuse. But regardless, the Prophet would give them permission to stay. You don't want to come and fight? No problem, you stay. When he would do this, part of the reason was because these were individuals that if they were to come with the Muslimeen, then they would create even bigger issues, because then they would start chit-chatting. Then they would start, ruining the faith of the others. And this is what the verses of the Quran says. وَلَوْ أَرَادُوا الْخُرُوجِ. If these guys really wanted to come with you and because of some excuse they had to say, لَأَعَدُّوا لَهُ عُدَّةً. They would have prepared at least, right? When you want to head out on a trip, right, and someone calls you and says, oh, I'm so sorry, something came up, right? I'm not able to come. Then that means naturally they would have been preparing before that, right? They would have been preparing, getting everything ready. Something last minute came up. The Quran says these guys are lying, because if they wanted to come with you, they would have started preparing at least. But they didn't even start preparing to come with you. لَأَعَدُّوا لَهُ عُدَّةً وَلَكِنْ كَرِهَ اللَّهُمْ بِعَاثَهُمْ. But here's the thing, we don't even want them to come with you. فَثَبَّتَهُمْ. We're going to keep them there. We're not going to let them come with you. And then the verses of the Quran continue to explain why he wants them to stay there. لَوْ خَرَجُوا فِيكُمْ مَا زَادُوكُمْ إِلَّا خَبَالًا. If these guys come with you, if they're in your circle, only thing they will bring to you is laziness. Only thing they will bring to you is a negative atmosphere. They will only hold you back. Having them with you is not going to help you at all. In fact, it's going to hurt you even more. This is the character of a munafiq. Now, I ask you this question and I ask myself this question. What times are there that you find individuals around ourselves that sometimes you sit there and you say, you know what, this guy, even if we don't have him around, it's better. Because when you do have him around, he is so negative and he will ruin the whole morale that you're like, listen, we don't even need this guy. This person, his character is munafiq-like. This is how a munafiq would do things. He doesn't believe in the system. He doesn't believe in the goal. So not only will he not help, but when he comes along with you, he will try to hold you back along the way. That's a third characteristic of a munafiq. Recite salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah. Fourth characteristic of a munafiq. This is the type of individual who, like we said earlier, he will hold back. He will wait for you to go and test everything. And then when you go and test everything, you go through the ups and downs. And then when you're victorious, then all of a sudden he'll show up and he'll say, you remember me? I'm your friend. We're together. MashaAllah, we have come such a long way. Well, he wasn't there when you were going that long way. But he acts as if he has been there throughout this whole journey with you. Why? Because now you've been victorious. Now that you've been victorious, all of a sudden, he says, yeah, we've known each other for, so many years. Well, we've known each other for so many years. But when I was going through the ups and downs, were you there with me? No, he wasn't there with you. They used to do this with the Prophet as well. Prophet would go out for a battle, they would wait. If the Prophet was defeated, the Prophet would come back with, having these wounds and, having fatalities and whatnot. Then they would say, oh, alhamdulillah that we weren't with them. It's a good thing we didn't go out with them. And then if they would return back and they would be victorious, what would they say? They would say, listen, we were with you from the beginning. We're all part of one community. We're all part of one group. We're all part of one circle. Again, if you look in your life, You will find, na'udhu billah, sometimes ourselves or even other individuals who act in this way. They will wait for others to go ahead. They'll wait for others to go through the difficulties of life to test things out. Then when they are done, then all of a sudden they'll show up if you're victorious. And if you're not victorious, they will not even come to ask how you're doing. Now, the verses of the Quran says, yes, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا خُذُوا حِذْرَكُمْ فَانْفِرُوا ثُبَاتًا أَوْ انْفِرُوا جَمِيعًا. You should all grab your armor and get ready for this battle. وَإِنَّ مِنْكُمْ لَيُبَتِّئَنْ. And there are some amongst you who will try to slow things down. They're not so sure about going and putting themselves in harms. So they will try to slow things down. فَإِنْ أَصَابَتْكُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. If something horrible happens to you, قَالَ قَدْ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. So thank God that God blessed me, that I didn't go out with these people. إِذْ لَمْ أَكُمْ مَعَهُمْ شَهِيدًا. That I didn't go and witness this horrible situation with them. And he feels safe and protected. وَلَئِنْ أَصَابَكُمْ فَضْلٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. But when things go well, all of a sudden this person, he changes his behavior. لَيَقُولَنَّ كَأَنْ لَمْ تَكُنْ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُمْ مَوَدَّةٌ يَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ مَعَهُمْ. Says, oh, I wish I was with these guys. فَأَفُوزَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. I wish I would also be part of this victory of theirs. He will change his behavior depending on what the situation is like. This is the fourth characteristic of a munafiq. And the fifth one, inshallah, we will cover. Recite a salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah. The fifth characteristic of a munafiq, and I will give you a real life example of this, is this: that even though he's friends with the Muslims, even though he loves the Muslims, supposedly, he has affection for them, but at the same time, he loves and has affection for the enemies of the Muslims too. As much as that might seem as a contradiction, because it is a contradiction, he loves this side, but he also extends his love and affection to what? To the other side as well. It doesn't make sense for him to only love this side. No, I love everybody. And this is the type of person that a munafiq is, huh? He will love these Muslims and these mu'mineen and the Prophet, but then when it comes to the enemies of Islam, he will always and also extend his love and affection to them and his friendship to them as well. On the surface, he will make things look very beautiful. But at the end of the day, he will also be friends with the enemies of Islam and the Muslimin. I'll give you a real life example, one that we've been dealing with recently. For those who have been watching the news lately, you all have been watching that, for example, the governor of New York, right? They call him Governor Cuomo. He's an individual who's been on, TVs for quite a while now, and people have been listening to him with his briefings and whatnot. And even a portion of this relationship that he had with his brother, right? He has a younger brother who got sick, who was a CNN reporter, also came to surface. And the type of very, friendly discussions that they were having between the two brothers, and everyone declared them as the most wonderful brothers of America, and individuals that you would look at and you would just say, oh, this is such a wonderful dynamic that they have, right? They're brothers and they joke around with one another, and the heart, the love of this person, liking this person starts to make its way into your heart. That this is a person who cares for people. This is a person who really wants to work hard for his people. And this is a person who will bring a little bit of joy to the heart of people in the middle of this pandemic. But then you will find the same individual when it comes to the children of the Palestinians. He has no problem with them going through suffering, with them going through difficulties. This is a person who will do one thing on one hand, and on the other hand, he will do what? He will do the exact opposite of it, right? This is the same individual who came out 3-4 years ago and came up with this idea in New York that if anyone boycotts buying certain products, that the state of New York will boycott that individual, because this is an act against the Judaic faith. And we all know that it's not an act against the Judaic faith. He said if you boycott Israel, what happens? That the state of New York will do what? Will boycott you. So on one hand, he will have no problem with supporting the children and the people of his state. But at the other hand, when it comes to other women and children, he has no problem with them being boycotted. He has no problem with them being in isolation. He has no problem with them dying without medicine. And as it relates to us as people who are living in this country and living in this society, it's important to observe these, and it's important to remember these, because not everyone who wears a suit and a tie, not everyone who smiles, not everyone who jokes around is really a friend of yours. Not everyone who makes it look beautiful is really someone who cares about you or cares about the things they're supposed to care about. No, there will be people who will laugh and joke on TV. They will be presented to us as individuals who are very, lovable. And then when you look at their actions, right, the actions that they have done, it makes you feel nauseous when you look at what they have done. And this is an example of it. This is an individual that if you see on TV, you would love this person. You would say, oh, it's such a personable individual. But then when you actually look at the actions of this person, then you find this person, no. When push comes to shove, this same person is willing to do such acts. He doesn't have a problem that the children of the Palestinians will die without medicine, for example. Now, why is this important? Because us living in this society, we have to be able to understand that if we are going to extend our friendship to somebody, extend our love and affection to somebody, we have to be careful that that person does not act as an enemy, does not do things that the enemies of Islam would do. If I extend my love and affection for such an individual, I have to be careful. Is his actions the actions of the enemies of Islam? And some of them are. You look at this president, we don't have so much of an issue with this president because it's so clear as to where he stands. But some of the previous presidents, just because they wore a suit and a tie, did that mean that they really didn't have issues with Islam? That their foreign policy was very beautiful and was very perfect? No, it wasn't. So we have to be careful about this, because we can never love somebody who in reality does the actions of the enemies of Islam. This is the fifth essentially characteristic of a munafiq, that he will extend his friendship and his love to those who are in reality the enemies of Islam. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps us, inshallah, to stay away from these characteristics. Inshallah, if the brothers can dim the lights, we will take our hearts to the city of Medina and we will prepare to hear the masa'ib of our beloved first Imam. Sallallahu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Tonight is, of course, the night that our beloved Imam is going to be struck. Tonight is the first night where the orphans in the city of Kufa will not have anyone bring them the food, bring them the milk, bring them the things that they need. It will be the first night that the city of Kufa will be filled with sadness. It will be filled with darkness. It will be filled with grief. Let's take our hearts to the city of Kufa, where Ali ibn Abi Talib is essentially on this night, he is preparing himself to go to the masjid. Before that, Ali ibn Abi Talib already knows that this night is going to come. The Prophet of Allah has told him in the khutbah that he has told him about before the month of Ramadan comes. He has told him with eyes that are crying that, Ya Ali, a day will come where they will wrong you. This ummah will put you and your family through this difficult tragedy. The khutbah of the Prophet says this, that after the Prophet explained his khutbah, and as he was speaking to the people, then he turned to Ali ibn Abi Talib, ثُمَّ بَكَى. He started to cry. فَقُلْتُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, I told the Prophet, مَا يُبْكِيكَ, what is it that makes you cry, Ya Rasulullah? What is it that, you are so, you feel so sad about? فَقَالَ يَا عَلِي أَبْكِي لِمَا يَسْتَحِلُّ مِنْكَ فِي هَذَا الشَّهْرِ. Said, Ya Ali, I'm crying because there are certain things that people will do to you in this month. There are certain acts of atrocity that people will commit against you in this month. And then he continued, he said, كَأَنِّي بِكْ Ya Ali, I can see that moment where you're standing there. وَأَنْتَ تُصَلِّي لِرَبِّكَ, and you are praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقَدْ انْبَعَثَ أَشْقَى الْأَوَّلِينَ شَقِيقَ عَاقِرِ نَاقِةِ ثَمُودَ. And the worst of the people, the worst of the first and the last of people, he is coming your way. فَضَرَبَكَ ضَرْبَةً عَلَى قَرْنِكَ. And then he will strike you on your head. And when he strikes you on the head, Ya Ali, what is going to happen is that this blood will start to flow from your head. فَخَذَبَكَ بِدِمَائِهِ. Then all of a sudden your whole face will take on the color of blood. Your beard will be colored with the color of blood. This is the Prophet crying for Ali ibn Abi Talib before these nights have even come. Maybe years before this night has even come. Let's take our hearts to the city of Kufa. Let's see what's going on these days and nights in the city of Kufa. Ali ibn Abi Talib is already fed up with life. He already wants to leave this world. He's already asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to leave this world at this point. When you look at the ahadith, it says that during those final nights of Ali ibn Abi Talib's life, that he wasn't acting in the normal way. They say that he was not calm and collected as he normally was. Each night he was spending in the house of one of his children, staying up the nights, not eating food like he would normally do. And they asked him, they said, Ya Ali, you're not eating, what's going on? He said, I want to meet my Lord with an empty stomach. I want to meet my Lord without having anything on me. This is Ali ibn Abi Talib preparing himself. Imagine a night like tonight comes, that Ali ibn Abi Talib, he then prepares himself to go to the masjid. And what we hear again from history is that as he was heading out of the house, some of these animals that they had inside of the house, they tried to stop Ali ibn Abi Talib, as if to say, Ya Ali, don't go tonight. Tonight is going to be different. Tonight there's no more coming back once you go to the masjid on a night like this. They even say that when Ali was leaving his house, that his clothing got stuck to the door. As if again the door is telling Ali not to go on a night like this to the masjid. Nonetheless, Ali has to go to the masjid. He has to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine he comes to the masjid and he gives the first adhan. People start to wake up a little bit. Amongst them, the Mal'un ibn Muljam, he wakes up. He goes to the house of Qutam. And Qutam orders him to put an end to the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He returns to the masjid and he lies amongst those who are still asleep inside of the masjid of Kufa. Then Ali ibn Abi Talib, he comes inside of the house, inside of the masjid this time. And he starts to give adhan one more time. And he starts to wake up these individuals who are asleep in the masjid one by one. Amongst them, Ibn Muljam. Imagine Ali ibn Abi Talib knows who Ibn Muljam is. Imagine he knows that this is the one who is going to strike me. This is the one who is going to make my children orphans. This is the one who is going to take my children and take away the shelter and refuge that they have in me. He comes and he wakes up Ibn Muljam. He wakes up the other individuals. And then he stands in his place of prayer. He stands in his mihrab. And he starts to pray in this mihrab. The first rak'at goes by. The second rak'ah, Ali ibn Abi Talib goes to sajda. Then all of a sudden the Mal'un, with the sword that he had prepared from before, with this poisonous sword, he strikes Ali ibn Abi Talib on the head. The blood starts to gush around in the mihrab. And Ali says nothing. The first thing that comes out of the mouth of Ali ibn Abi Talib is Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba. I made it. I am victorious. I have succeeded. Ali ibn Abi Talib wants to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants to see his wife Fatima salamullahi alayha. Imagine as Ali is in the mihrab, he is struggling in his own blood. He doesn't even know what to do at this point. They say that Ibn Muljam ran away. When they brought back Ibn Muljam, and this is the true masa'ib of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that they say Ali ibn Abi Talib turned to Ibn Muljam. He mentioned a couple of sentences to Ibn Muljam. One of them was this. He said, Ibn Muljam, Bi'sal Amir kuntu laka. Was I a terrible governor for you? Was I a terrible Amir for you? Was I a terrible person ruling over you that you ended up doing something like this? Why would you do something like this to me? If I had wronged you, if I had done nothing wrong to you, why would you end up doing something like this? And then Ali ibn Abi Talib, he continues and he adds this line. He says, لِمَاذَا أَيْتَمْتَ أَوْلَادِي مِنْ بَعْدِي. Why did you take my children and make them orphans? Why did you take away their father from them? My Hassan, my Hussein, my Zainab, my Kulthum, all of them, they're in the house, they're waiting for me. They're waiting for me to return. لِمَاذَا أَيْتَمْتَ أَوْلَادِي مِنْ بَعْدِي. Why did you take the one who watches all over all of the orphans in the city of Kufa, and now you made his own children orphans? Now the one who is the father of all orphans has now become an owner of orphans himself. He has orphans in his own house himself. As much as Ali ibn Abi Talib is struck by this incident, they say as the days go by, he continuously asks Hassan ibn Ali, Ya Hassan, this person that we have in our custody, have you given him water? Have you given him the food that he needs to drink? This is the love that Ali ibn Abi Talib has, the mercy that Ali ibn Abi Talib has, the justice that Ali ibn Abi Talib has. But all of this on one side, the pain that the Ahlul Bayt are going through in these days and nights on the other side. What is going through the heart of Zainab? What is going through the heart of Kulthum? What is going through the heart of Hassan and Hussein, these orphans of Ali ibn Abi Talib, on these difficult nights in this month of Ramadan? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us all the tawfiq to be amongst the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He removes the difficulty and pain from the lives of all of our brothers and sisters, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He liberates all of our brothers and sisters that are going through difficult times with illnesses and with diseases, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them health and afiyah, inshaAllah. And finally, last but not least, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He hastens the return of our beloved 12th Imam bin Nabi wa alih. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات. Allah.
ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، روتی ہے اذان مسجد کوفہ بھی ہے گریا، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، لو آج سے آغاز ہوا کرب و بلا کا، مقدومۂ کونین کا جاری ہوا گریا، مرقد نے محمد بھی نظر آئے پریشان، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، کیا زہر میں ڈوبی ہوئی شمشیر چلی ہے، لو زخمی ہوا سجدے میں داماد نبی ہے، دنیا سے چلا دیکھیے کعبے کا نگہباں، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، جبریل امی خاک اڑاتے ہوئے آئے، آدم بھی یہی نوحہ سناتے ہوئے آئے، کس کو دم مشکل میں پکارے گا مسلمان، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، تو نے بن ملجم یہ ستم کیسا ہے ڈھایا، سجدے میں نمازی کا لہو کیوں ہے بہایا، عباس کو بچپن میں کیا چاک گریباں، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، کعبے کی فصیلوں پہ اداسی کی ردا ہے، اور قبلہ اول میں بھی کوحرام بپا ہے، سر خلد میں حوران جناں نے کیا عریاں، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، حسنین کے سر پر ہے یتیمی کا اندھیرا، رخصت ہوا سورج کی نگاہوں سے سویرا، زمزم میں تلا تم ہے تو کوثر میں ہے طوفان، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن، روتی ہے اذان مسجد کوفہ بھی ہے گریا، ہے وقت سحر خون میں تروار سے قرآن۔
So inshallah, before we start the a'mal, we'll start the a'mal inshallah with the 2 rakat salat that is to be performed tonight. So it's a
أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه 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 بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Now inshallah we will read Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa Atubu Ilayh 100 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa Atubu Ilayh. 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 أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه 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 أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, we're going to recite Allahumma al-an qatalat Amir al-Mu'mineen 100 times. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma al-an qatalat Amir al-Mu'mineen. 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 اللهم العن قتلة أمير المؤمنين. اللهم العن قتلة أمير المؤمنين. اللهم الآن 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 قتلة أمير المؤمنين. اللهم العن قتلة أمير المؤمنين 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 اللهم العن قتلة أمير المؤمنين
اللهم لعن قتلة أمير المؤمنين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, we'll continue with the a'mal of tonight. Before we do, though, I want to take a couple of moments to mention a couple of points that is important to remember for these moments that we're going through for tonight and the night of the 21st and the night of the 23rd. The first is, of course, that when we go through these a'mal, it's good to do as much of these a'mal as you have the enthusiasm to do. The most important thing on the night of Qadr, and you might have heard this from me before, and you'll hear it from me over again in the future as well. The most important thing to do on these nights is to really identify the haram that happens in our life and to eradicate them. There is nothing greater than removing a haram habit from our lifestyle. There's nothing that will bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing that will bring us closer to Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullahi alayhi than being able to fix our conduct. These a'mal that we do, of course, they are supposed to be there to give us that enthusiasm, to give us that energy to, inshallah, after a night like this, go into our lives and make some changes in our lives. That's what this night is all about. They don't call this night of destiny the night of destiny for nothing. It's because essentially the whole idea is to change your destiny on a night like this. And the way to change your destiny and my destiny is to go back into my lifestyle and take a look at those things that I have to change. This, if someone does it this way, their night of Qadr won't be one night, it'll be for the rest of their life, because this night of Qadr will affect the rest of their life. That's the first thing I wanted to mention. That is the most important thing to keep in mind, inshallah. As we go through these a'mal are for us to build a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to then look at our lives and see how we can change our lives, inshallah. That's the first point. The second point I wanted to mention is that on a night like this, when you're praying and you're supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not, the ideal situation to only ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the forgiveness of our sins. The forgiveness of our sins is just the first level. It's just the first standard. And that's, of course, wonderful in and of itself. But at the end of the day, we want to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for things much greater than that. In fact, if you look at the hadith says that when a servant of mine, when he realizes that nobody else can forgive him except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has sins that nobody else can remove from him except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the moment he realizes this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive him before he even opens his mouth, before he even says astaghfirullah. So the forgiveness of our sins, inshallah, if someone really regrets what they have done, it's definitely going to be there, and this is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But inshallah, on a night like this, aim for things much, much higher, and inshallah will benefit from the a'mal of this night. So you all can, if you are at home, you can grab a Quran, whether it's the whole Quran or just, a para or a juz or a portion of the Quran. And we will start going through the a'mal of Quran. This is page 288 in that PDF that is sent out in the groups. So as you can see, it says that you are to open the Quran and you are to hold the Quran in front of you. So you can go ahead and open the Quran from any page and put the Quran in front of you, and we all ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the right of this Quran to shower His blessings upon us. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma inni as'aluka bi kitabika al-munzali wa ma fih. Ya Allah, I ask you by the right of this book that you have sent down to us, and by the right of everything that is in it, wa ma fih. وَفِيهِ اسْمُكَ الْأَكْبَرُ وَأَسْمَاؤُكَ الْحُسْنَى. And in this book is the greatest of your names and all of your beautiful names. وَمَا يُخَافُ وَيُرْجَى. And that which we are supposed to be afraid of, and that which we are supposed to have hope towards, the heaven and the hell that you have promised us. All of it is in this book. We ask you by the right of all of these things, أَن تَجْعَلَنِي مِنْ عُتَقَائِكَ مِنَ النَّارِ, that you will place me amongst those that are freed from your hellfire on a day like this. We'll take a moment to think of your hajat, and then inshallah we will continue with the a'mal. Just a couple seconds to think of your hajat, all of those who have asked you to pray for them, all of those who are dealing with this virus, directly or indirectly, brothers and sisters all around the world, the sad news that we heard in Afghanistan today, or yesterday, other parts of the world that our brothers and sisters are struggling. Okay, we'll take the Quran and we place the Quran on our heads. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma bihaqqi hadha al-Quran. Ya Allah, by the right of this Quran. Wa bihaqqi man arsaltahu bih. And by the right of the one that you sent this Quran with. وَبِحَقِّ كُلِّ مُؤْمِنٍ مَدَحْتَهُ فِيهِ. And by the right of every righteous servant of yours that you have spoken of in this Quran. وَبِحَقِّكَ عَلَيْهِمْ. And by the right that you have upon them. فَلَا أَحَدَ أَعْرَفُ بِحَقِّكَ مِنْكَ. There is no one that knows that right better than you. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the right of these individuals that we mentioned 10 times, بك يا الله 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 بك يا الله. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the right of His beloved Prophet, by the right of His most special servant, that He places us amongst those who are freed from the hellfire 10 times. بمحمد 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 Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of Ali ibn Abi Talib, we ask you by the right of the one who is going to be struck in his sajda during these nights. We ask you by the right of the one who is going to father all of the orphans, but there is no one to father his own orphans during these days and nights. The one who used to bring food and milk to everyone in the city of Kufa, now his own children have nobody to watch after them. We ask you by the right of Ali ibn Abi Talib 10 times. بعلي 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 Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our beloved mother, by the right of the lady who was stuck in her house, by the right of the lady who's known as Ummul Masa'ib, the one who carries all of the Masa'ib, the one who, the hadith says that if all of the Masa'ib of the dunya, if her Masa'ib were to pour over the dunya, the day will turn into night. That's how difficult the Masa'ib of Lady Fatima was. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the Lady of Light 10 times. بفاطمة 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 Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of the beloved second Imam of ours, we ask you by the right of the one who was poisoned to death, the one who is gharib, the one who even in his graveyard has no one visiting him during these days and nights. We ask you, Ya Allah, by the right of Hasan al-Mujtaba 10 times. بالحسن 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 Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our beloved third Imam, that Imam of ours that was Al-Witr al-Mawtur, the one who was left alone in the plains of Karbala, the one who told his daughter Sukaina that go and tell my Shia anytime that they find someone who's lonely, fandubuni, tell them to remember me and to think of me and to mourn me. The Imam who told his daughter, anytime that you drink some water that is cool, that you drink this water and it quenches your thirst, fadhkuruni, remember the one who was in the middle of the desert in the plains of Karbala. As much as he asked water for his child, there was no water given to Hussein ibn Ali. Ya Allah, we will ask you by the right of the Shaheed of Karbala 10 times. بالحسين 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 Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our beloved fifth Imam, by the right of the one who doesn't have a shrine, by the right of the one whose shrine was destroyed. We ask you, Allah, by the right of the one who witnessed the atrocities of Karbala, the one who was in Karbala as he was going through this difficult time with the Ahlul Bayt, the one who was there, who was so sick he couldn't defend his own father, the one that Zainab had to watch after in the plains of Karbala and going through Kufa and Sham. We ask you, Ya Allah, by the right of our beloved fourth Imam 10 times. بعلي ابن الحسين 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 Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of the one who's buried in Baqi'. We ask you by the right of the one who was also there in the plains of Karbala, witnessing the terrible violence in Karbala at such a young age. The one who walked with the orphans from Karbala all the way to Kufa and Sham. The one who witnessed his father Ali ibn al-Hussein with chains on his neck and on his feet. We ask you by the right of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir 10 times. بمحمد ابن علي 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 بمحمد ابن علي. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our beloved sixth Imam, by the right of that Imam of ours who had to constantly do taqiyya to save the life of himself, to save the life of his companions. We ask you by the right of the one who spread the knowledge of the Ahlul Bayt. We ask you by the right of our beloved sixth Imam 10 times. بجعفر ابن محمد 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 بجعفر ابن محمد. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our seventh Imam, by the right of the one who was imprisoned for so much of his life, by the right of the one who was down in the dungeons of the Khulafa of the Abbasid dynasty. We ask you, Ya Allah, by the right of the one who was wronged by his own relatives. We ask you by the right of our beloved seventh Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim 10 times. بموسى بن جعفر 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 بموسى بن جعفر. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of Imam al-Rida, by the right of Gharib al-Ghuraba, by the right of the one who was taken away from the city of his grandfather, by the right of the one who was so lonely that he knew that the Khalifa was going to poison him. He knew that he was going to be buried by the grave of the father of the Khalifa. By the right of the one who added to the poetry of that poet who was speaking of the Masa'ib of the Ahlul Bayt, and then he added to the lines of that poet and he said, وَقَبْرٍ بِتُوسٍ. There is going to be a grave for the Ahlul Bayt also in Khurasan. There's going to be a grave for the Ahlul Bayt also in the area and the land of Tus. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the lonely 8th Imam of ours 10 times. بعلي ابن موسى 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 بعلي ابن موسى. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of this little son of our 8th Imam, this young Imam who was dealing with difficulties from the moment he became an Imam. We ask you by the right of Babul Hawa'ij. We ask you by the right of the one who he himself was an answer to the dua of the 8th Imam. His birth was an answer to the dua of the 8th Imam. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of him 10 times. بمحمد ابن علي 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 بمحمد ابن علي. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our dear Imam, Imam al-Hadi. We ask you by the right of the one whose shrine was destroyed. We ask you by the right of the one who was so lonely in Iraq, in the city of Samarra, so lonely that him, his father, his son, all buried in one place, him and his son. We ask you by the right of the one who had to deal with the pressure of the khulafa of his time. We ask you by the right of Imam al-Hadi 10 times. بعلي ابن محمد 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 بعلي ابن محمد. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our father, of the father of our beloved 12th Imam, we ask you by the right of the one who is known al-Askari, the one who is known by the time he spent in the prisons, by the time he spent in the forts of the Khulafa, of the Abbasis. We ask you by the right of the one who had hope in his beloved child. He knew that he was carrying this child that would bring hope and justice to the whole world, and yet himself there was no hope and no justice in the life of himself. We ask you by the right of Imam Hassan al-Askari 10 times. بالحسن ابن علي 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 بالحسن ابن علي. Ya Allah, we ask you by the right of our beloved 12th Imam, wherever you are, you can stand up for the respect of our beloved 12th Imam. We ask you by the right of that Imam of ours who is waiting as much as we wait for him, he waits more to have this moment to free mankind from difficulty, from pain, from the injustice that we find in the world. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the right of this beloved 12th Imam of ours who is gharib in his own way, who sees us but we don't see him, who recognizes us but we don't recognize him, and we assume he's absent but he is present with us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the right of our beloved 12th Imam 10 times. بالحجة 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 بالحجة. Let's take a moment to remember all of our hajat, all of those who have asked for us to pray for them, before we continue inshallah with the other du'as. Inshallah, as we're continuing with the a'mal, we'll move on to the next dua that we have. Allahumma inni amsaytu laka abdan dakhira. So I'll wait a moment for us to pull up this dua. There are a number of duas that we'll be going through inshallah tonight. And for those who are continuing with the booklet that was sent out, this would be on page 319. So I'll read the dua and I'll also explain a little bit so that we understand the meaning of the dua that we are going through inshallah. All right, let's begin inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Allahumma inni amsaytu laka abdan dakhira. Ya Allah, I am spending this night, I'm going through this night as a slave of yours that is submissive to you. I'm not a slave like I was yesterday, the days before, where I would disregard you, I would ignore you. No, tonight is different. Tonight I'm going to be a slave that is passive, a slave that will submit himself toward you, to you. لا أملك لنفسي نفعا ولا ضرا. I don't hold anything for myself. I don't hold any benefit for myself. I also don't hold any harm for myself. There's nothing I can do in my life. Everything is in your hands. ولا أصرف عنه السوء. And I cannot turn any of evil away from me. أشهد بذلك على نفسي. I bear witness to this upon myself. وأعترف لك بضعف قوتي. And I am admitting to the fact that I have no strength in your presence. وَقِلَّةِ حِيلَتِي, in that I have nowhere else to turn to. You're the only option that I have left for me. فَصَلِّ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِهِ, so send your blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. وَأَنْجِزْ لِي مَا وَعَدْتَنِي, and carry out and fulfill the promise that you have made to me. That promise that if I come knocking on your door, that you will accept my tawbah, that you will shower me with your blessings and with your mercy. وَجَمِيعَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ مِنَ الْمَغْفِرَةِ فِي هَذِهِ اللَّيْلَةِ. You told us that you would forgive us on a night like this. I've come knocking on your door so that you would fulfill that promise. وَأَتْمِمْ عَلَيَّ مَا آتَيْتَنِي, and add to those blessings that you have already given to me. فَإِنِّي عَبْدُكَ الْمِسْكِينُ الْمُسْتَكِينُ, because I am that humble servant of yours, that servant of yours that is poor, has nothing. الضعيف الفقير المهين, the weak one, the lowly one, the humiliated one. Allahumma la taj'alni nasiyan li dhikrika fima awlaytani. Ya Allah, do not make me forget you as the one who gave me the things that I have received, the blessings that I have received. Wala ghafilan li ihsanika fima a'taytani, and don't make me forget the benevolence that you've had and the things that you have blessed me with. Wala ayasan min ijabatik, and don't make me feel hopeless in you responding to my dua. وَإِنْ أَبْتَعْتَ عَنِّي, even if it will take a little bit of a while for you to respond to my dua in the way that I want it to be responded to, still do not take away that hope from me. فِي السَّرَّاءَ أَوْ ضَرَّاءَ أَوْ شِدَّةٍ أَوْ رَخَاءٍ أَوْ عَافِيَةٍ أَوْ بَلَاءٍ, in none of these situations. أَوْ بُؤْسٍ أَوْ نَعْمَاءٍ إِنَّكَ سَمِيعُ الدُّعَاء. Surely you are the one who hears the dua of those who are calling out to you and supplicating to you. فَلَا أَحَدَ أَعْرَفُ بِحَقِّكَ مِنْكَ. There is no one who knows your rights better than you. You know better how to deal with us. Like we read in Dua Kumail, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to deal with us the way He is and not to deal with us the way that we are. Okay. We're going to move on to the second dua, and this is a famous dua. It starts out like this: Allahumma ja'al fima taqdi wa tuqaddir. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم. Oh Allah, from amongst the things that you decide for me on a night like this, the things that, the fate that will not be changed, from amongst those things, وفيما تفرق من الأمر الحكيم في ليلة القدر, and everything that your decree will go about on a night like this, the special nights of Laylatul Qadr. في القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل, on those decrees that won't change and you won't be able to alter them. أن تجعلني من حجاج بيتك الحرام, that you place me amongst those who will have the chance to perform Hajj of your Baytuk al-Haram, of your house. المبرور حجهم, those whose pilgrimage is approved. المشكور سعيهم, those whose efforts are appreciated and rewarded by you. المغفور ذنوبهم, those whose sins are forgiven. المكفر عنهم سيئاتهم, those whose offenses are pardoned by you, they are forgiven by you. وَجَعَلْ فِيمَا تَقْضِي وَتُقَدِّرْ أَن تُطِيلَ عُمْرِي, and also put it in my qada and qadar that my life is prolonged and it continues. وَتُوَسِّعَ عَلَيَّ فِي رِزْقِي, and that you would add to my sustenance and you would make my sustenance, add to my sustenance and add to my rizq. Inshallah. So that's the second dua. The third dua is a very beautiful dua. If you look in the booklet, this would be page 359. It's a dua that I recite sometimes the shorter version of it in the qunut for those of you who've heard this before. Allahumma rzuqna tawfiq at-ta'ah. What a beautiful dua this is, really. And I'll start with that, inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة. You said, Ya Allah, you give me the tawfiq and the opportunity to obey you. I won't be able to obey you if you don't give me that opportunity. If you don't assist me on this path, I will not be able to obey you. You have to give me that opportunity. وَبُعْدَ الْمَعْصِيَةِ, and give me the opportunity to stay away and distance myself from disobedience. وَصِدْقَ النِّيَّةِ, and allow my intention to be a truthful intention. Allow it to be a pure intention. وَعِرْفَانَ الْحُرْمَةِ, and allow me to identify those things that you have forbidden for me. وَأَكْرِمْنَا بِالْهُدَى وَالْإِسْتِقَامَةِ, and honor us and bless us with guidance and istiqamah and perseverance. If I know this is the path that I have to walk on, guide me and bless me with perseverance that I can stick to this path. وَسَدِّدْ أَلْسِنَتَنَا بِالصَّوَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and make it such that when I speak with truth and I speak with wisdom, that nothing else leaves my mouth except that it is true and except that it is wise. وَامْلَأْ قُلُوبَنَا بِالْعِلْمِ وَالْمَعْرِفَةِ, and fill our hearts with knowledge and learning. وَطَهِّرْ بُطُونَنَا مِنَ الْحَرَامِ وَالشُّبْهَةِ, and pure our stomachs and our bellies and our existences from that which is haram for us to consume, and also from that which we are not sure if it is halal or haram. وَكْفُفْ أَيْدِيَنَا عَنِ الظُّلْمِ وَالسَّرِقَةِ, and make sure that our hands are cut off from wronging others. وَغْضُضْ أَبْصَارَنَا عَنِ الْفُجُورِ وَالْخِيَانَةِ, and during these days and nights, help us to lower our gaze. Help us that we do not look at those things that you have forbidden for us to look at. وَاسْتُدْ أَسْمَاعَنَا عَنِ اللَّغْوِ وَالْغَيْبَةِ, and help us with our ears, that our ears do not listen to those things that are just a means of entertainment and make us forget about the important things in this world. وَالْغَيْبَةِ, and the backbiting that we hear. وَتَفَضَّلْ عَلَىٰ عُلَمَائِنَا بِالزُّهْدِ وَالنَّصِيحَةِ, and you bless our ulama with them being zuhd, having abstinence, right, and also guiding them. وَعَلَى الْمُتَعَلِّمِينَ بِالْجُهْدِ وَالرَّغْبَةِ, and our students, you help them by adding to their drive and their determination. وَعَلَى الْمُسْتَمِعِينَ بِالْإِتِّبَاعِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ, and that those who are listening, that they take what they hear and they act upon it. وَعَلَى مَرْضَى الْمُسْلِمِينَ بِالشَّفَاءِ وَالرَّاحَةِ, and that you take the sick of the Muslimin and that you grant them with health and afiyah. What is it? What an important hajat this is. There are those right now, brothers and sisters, who may not be able to even hear what we're saying. There are those who may not be able to be sitting where you're sitting right now, even if that's at home and it's not at the masjid. Even that is a blessing. There are those who are so sick right now that, just because they want to breathe, it's difficult for them. We want to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses them and then He grants them with health and afiyah, inshallah. وَعَلَى مَوْتَاهُمْ بِالرَّأْفَةِ وَالرَّحْمَةِ, and that you have mercy on those of us who have passed away. So many of the people we know, brothers and sisters, who were here with us last year, who are not here with us this year. Some of our fathers, some of our mothers, some of our uncles, maybe some of our youth even. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on all of them. وَعَلَى مَشَايِخِنَا بِالْوَقَارِ وَالسَّكِينَةِ, and that you give gentleness and calmness and tranquility to the elders amongst us. وَعَلَى الشَّبَابِ بِالْأَنَابَةِ وَالتَّوْبَةِ, and that to the youngsters of ours and to the youth of ours you grant tawbah to them. Tawbah is always good, but from a young person it's even more special to do tawbah. وَعَلَى النِّسَاءِ بِالْحَيَاءِ وَالْعِفَّةِ, and when it comes to our women, that you grant them modesty and you grant them the proper form of shyness. وَعَلَى الْأَغْنِيَاءِ بِالتَّوَاضُعِ وَالسَّعَةِ, and that those of us that you have blessed with wealth, that you also bless them with humility, and that you also bless them with giving away their wealth as well. وَعَلَى الْفُقَرَاءِ بِالصَّبْرِ وَالْقَنَاعَةِ, and those who amongst us who are poor, that you grant them patience and that you grant them contentment with what they have. وَعَلَى الْغُزَاةِ بِالنَّصْرِ وَالْغَلَبَةِ, and those who are fighting on our behalf, that you help them and you assist them. وَعَلَى الْأُسَرَاءِ بِالْخَلَاصِ وَالرَّاحَةِ, and those who are captives, and there are captives and we have captives around the world, that you give them a little bit of ease and a little bit of convenience. وَعَلَى الْأُمَرَاءِ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالشَّفَقَةِ, and to the rulers that you teach them to be just. وَعَلَى الرَّعِيَّةِ بِالْإِنصَافِ وَحُسْنِ السِّيرَةِ, and to the people that they rule over, that you give them fairness and you teach them fairness. وَبَارِكْ لِلْحُجَّاجِ وَالزُّوَّارِ فِي الزَّادِ وَالنَّفَقَةِ. And those who want to walk on this path of Hajj, that you add to that thing, to their sustenance and to their wealth. وَقْضِ مَا أَوْجَبْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ الْحَجِّ وَالْعُمْرَةِ. And that you have them remove this duty and this burden of Hajj from them. بِفَضْلِكَ وَرَحْمَتِكَ يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ. By the right of your mercy, by the right of your grace, O the one who is the most merciful. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. I'll move on to the next dua. It starts out like this. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. This is page 392. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya dhal ladhi kana qabla kulli shay. O the one who was there before anybody and anyone else. ثُمَّ خَلَقَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And then he created everything. ثُمَّ يَبْقَى وَيَفْنَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Then he will destroy everything and it will only be him who is going to